Thank you so much, Mr. Obehi. It's one of my greatest honors to be here today. My name is Mohamed Bachir Kamara. I'm Guinean by nationality and African by blood. I'm currently pursuing global challenges degree at the Africa Leadership University, the Harvard of Africa.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewafo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
And I have been working in several international organizations, GCI, INA think tank, whereby I serve as the senior policy advisor. And I'm inclining to this governance, and entrepreneurships in order to boost Africa. Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for that, Mohammed. So, how did you get into leadership? I think that is an argument that is really interesting. Do you want to tell me how you got into that?
It's a good question and insightful aspirations, because from time to time I realized that we cannot move forward our society without passing through leadership. And leadership is very important because it is characterized by your ability to lead people, not the position that you have. And this has been made through different things that I've been doing in my community. And I ended up being in the leaderships positions whereby I had to lead people. I had to make my community more better.
All right, that's interesting. I agree with you. Now, when you look at leadership, maybe for example, you are currently in Guinea, correct?
I'm currently in the Republic of Rwanda.
Rwanda, but you're originally from Guinea.
Yeah, Guinea, yeah, West Africa.
All right, that's cool. Okay, let's start from Rwanda. Tell me, how do you look at leadership as you see it around there in Rwanda?
Firstly, I have to say that the leadership is not merely about the positions, but it's about the impact that you make in your society. And what I've realized that here, the leadership's characteristics of different leaders in Rwanda are very, 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 very into impact that they are making in their society. It is a kind of participative aspect whereby all people are supposed to do something for their society. And it's not only rely on someone who's going to lead the people, but everyone has something to do for the growth of its community. And this is something that has inspired millions of youth, in Rwanda, youth who are here to study, to learn, have been grasping so many things that they have been incorporating into their society. And this is what I'm speaking to you now only because I know that the Rwandan leadership, it is an exemplary for all African countries. As you can see that Rwanda from years and years and today is not the same. So many things have been changed. And this is not because the country has so many things or not, even though the country doesn't even something, but through their leadership, the country is moving forward.
That's true. Because leadership is about providing solution to the challenges of the people. And it is not really possible to say that a piece of land or a country as it were in Africa, any part of Africa, doesn't have resources. There are resources all around. It just depends on how are we able to explore these resources for the benefit of the people. So yes, of course, in Rwanda, it might not have all the petroleums, but there are resources there. And what really makes the difference is the leadership there. How are the people able to tap into their resources and able to use it for the benefit of the local people? Because if you compare that to maybe in Nigeria, for example, or in Congo, where you might have a lot of resources, we can see that the people are suffering. It's not because there is none or there is enough. It is because the people at the helm of affair do not know how to administer these resources for the benefit of their local people. Therefore, the people suffer in the midst of their abundance. So in this sense, I think leadership is something that we really should pay attention to in Africa of 2023. All right, now I have a curiosity because you are still at the university there, you are finishing, you are your final year, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, because you are a younger person, I want to try and understand what do you see other younger Africans think about leadership in their continent because they are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. There is no two ways about it. What do they feel about how the continent is led today?
Thank you so much for that questions. But before delving into that questions, I would like to highlight something very important and crucial in terms of leadership. And also I'm going to contextualize it into the African realities or even Africanize my concept or my insight that I'm going to highlight on right now. You know, we have two factors of development. We have firstly the human resources and also the natural resources. And however, in Africa, we have so many natural resources, but we are facing the lack of human resources because the human resources are the driven resources that can change something, and the natural resources are not driven. You get so that the ability of the human resources that can move, that can transform those natural resources. But unfortunately, that's not happening right now. It's very complicated. And if we are contributing to the human resources, I do believe that from time to time, Africa will be one of the better places to live in. And considering the fact that leadership it's something that is tangible, something that's very very important in our communities' transformations. As you can see today, African youth are left behind in terms of leadership, like specifically the governance aspect, because so many youth that have been interacting with, they're saying that, oh, I don't want to do politics. I'm afraid of politics. Politics is a bad game. But there's one thing that I usually tell them: if you don't do politics, politics will make you do in any way. If you don't do politics, politics will make you do because you are the agent, you are the cornerstone, you are the springboard of the development of your continent, of development of your country. If you don't participate into that, because every single thing that we are doing here, it's politics. Politics is about strategies. Politics is about strategy, what you're supposed to do. But if you don't try to look at further about those kind of things, even though you have good ideas, you have so many innovative ideas, you will not be able to transform your community. This is something that I have been highlighting on because we usually say that the development of Africa depends on youth. And now those youth are not inclined into the leadership aspect of governance. It's very hard because currently the most difficult things that we are facing as Africans, it's the lack of policy, governance. We do not have a strong mindset in order to develop our continent. And those youth are left behind. It's very complicated. What you are supposed to do is to look at those youth and to tell them that in the next years to come, you are going to be the ones who are going to be leading Africa. You are going to be the one who's going to be leading your country. Internalizing that in their minds, they will be aware of some of the challenges that they are going to be tackling in order to change their life, their community, and their continent.
Now, when you talk to these other younger African like you, and they tell you that they're not interested in politics, they're afraid of politics and things like that, what kind of justification do they give you? Like, what are the concrete reasons? Why, instead of becoming a participant in politics, they are just apathy. They are looking at it from afar, whereas actually it's conditioning them whether they know it or not.
They usually say that politics is a bad game. And I said that why you don't want to participate in those bad games in order to make it as a right game. That's the fact. In order to criticize only, but not to contribute to those, to make that game as a better game for the whole community. That's the thing. I don't want to be on the side whereby I'm going to criticize only, but I want to be on the side whereby I can convince, I can give my ideas, I can try to internalize my concept in order to develop my country, in order to develop my community. I can't do that anywhere if I don't participate into that. It's complicated. It's very, 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 very complicated. And this is some of the things that I've been telling them You have to be there. It doesn't mean that you are supposed to study politics in order to be in the governance. No, we can learn from our elders, and from time to time, you are going to be the change makers and change your community. But the only thing that also I try to highlight as well when I'm saying that is to be humble enough, is to be humble in order to learn. Because if you are not humble, you cannot learn from those crocodiles. It's very complicated because they will say that you are going to overthrow them. And that's not the options. The option here is to learn from them, their good side, develop that in order to change your community in the next future years to come. That's the most important and crucial things that I'm going to say about your questions.
All right, Mohammed, you said something very important there. I would like also explore it a little bit, which is learning from those before us. You see, all of us, we are standing on the shoulder of giants, people who have been here before us. That is why we are here. So if we are able to learn from them, then we will be able to shape a better future for ourselves and those who will be here after us. Because we're not going to be here forever. We are all just playing a part in a long story. So when we say learn from the past, as somebody who is interested in leadership in Africa, tell me some African leaders that have inspired you that you will want to learn from.
Wow, I'm gonna say that I am actually learning from most African leaders because they have good sides that I am exploring into and try to avoid their bad side. For instance, when you look at the former president of Cote d'Ivoire, Laurent Gbagbo, he has started his politics combat fighting long time ago when he was a student at the university. And these are some things that his Pan-African ideas, his concept in order to transform Africa is something that I have considered a long time ago. And I have read so many books from African leaders. For instance, when you talk about Paul Kagame as well, Paul Kagame is a good leader. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a bad side. And me, I'm trying to be optimistic at in any way around the things because I know that I can learn from them. I can take something very important from them and explore that. This is very, very important. But most of the things here currently, most people they are just looking at the bad side of things and they don't want to move forward. That's why in leadership we say that it doesn't mean that how best you are playing with the ball, it's it's how efficient you are. That means that you have to know when to shoot the ball and where to shoot it. It's very important.
That's interesting. That is also inspiring. Yeah, you did make mention of Laurent Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire and also Paul Kagame, who is, I think he's the current president of Rwanda, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
He's a man I respect a lot also from what I see he do, from what I hear about him. I've never been to Rwanda. Also, from what I read about him, from what I hear him speak by listening to most of his speeches and the address and all that, he's really an inspiring individual. All right. As somebody who is studying leadership or who is interested in leadership, and you are right there in Rwanda, I want you to tell me what are some of the quality that you see in Paul Kagame that maybe other African leaders. I'm particularly interested in younger African leaders because we know that the older one will soon die away and they will be replaced by the younger one. So our future is going to be based on the younger generation, not the old one who maybe might like to stick to power, like what is currently happening in Nigeria, for example. We see an old man in the name of Bola Tinubu who believe that it is his turn to become leader in Nigeria. But leadership is not about turn. It's about what are you going to do for your people at your age. How do you think if you become the leader of Nigeria, you will be able to run the race that is needed to govern a people as complex as this? Leadership is not about the seasons. It's not about seniority. Okay, there are type of leadership that are based on seniority. If you are looking at village setting and tribal settings and things like that, but the type of Republican leadership we are talking about here is not really about that. We're looking at who is able to deliver who is able to provide the leadership that the people need to be able to move to the next generation. So coming back again to the question, what are the qualities that you like about the person of Paul Kagame as a leader?
One of the characteristics that I'm going to highlight on, because there are so many things, it's leadership in actions and ethics. It's very important because we realize that so many people, they are just in the dreams, and what they say, they will not implement that. And every single thing that you are doing, we have to impact the life of our community. It doesn't matter which position that you are holding today. Which matters a lot is the impact that you are going to make into your community when you pass. That's very important. And some of the actions that are supposed to be taken is through the participatory systems, whereby you are going to be involving several people in order to tackle those things. And this is some of the things that Paul Kagame have been doing so far. And a part about the ethical aspect is that the spirit that these people are holding here is an inspiration for all African leaders to see that we have been going through so many things, but today we have changed things that some people or some countries couldn't change, before. And this is some of the things that we are supposed to grasp a lot, because leadership, it's about character, it's about your ethics, fighting corruptions. As you can see in Rwanda here, we have less corruption rate. And consider looking at several countries in Africa, it is worse. And we cannot run a country like that. Because when you lead someone, you have to think about the future. And Stephen Covey said that the difference between humans and animals is because humans think about their future. And those people, Paul Kagame and his governance, are thinking like that. They're not drastically thinking about what they have today, but they're thinking about the future of their communities. What are some of the legacy that we are going to be leaving for the next generation to take over in order to follow the same thing that you are doing, and also put into some innovations things in order to move forward? These are some of the things that our governments in so many African countries are lacking or are leaving behind. You'll get the point.
Yeah, I do. And what are the consequences of that? What are the consequences of not thinking about the future? Because that is actually what is happening in many parts of Africans today. In that we have leaders who are only thinking about today and the immediate today, which is tomorrow. Nobody is talking about the far tomorrow, like in the next 20 years from now, in the next 50 years from now, in the next 100 years from now. What are the consequences of that type of mindset?
The type of mindset of that is that the development will not be sustainable at all. The development will not be sustainable because you don't have a long-lasting aspirations. What will be the future that our next generation will be holding so far in order to change? I read a book that the government of Rwanda wrote. Is the vision of 2050. When I met with the executive director of the Fond Monetaire International Monetary Fund, Mr. Fasine Silla, I gave him that book, and he was really inspired about that book. You get? And those are the things that when you read that as the African youth, you are going to get inspired, and you will see this is some of the strategies that I can enact on, I can apply, and even put some innovative ideas in order to change things. But those things are not there. You get? Those are the things that you are supposed to plan. It's even a way to inspire. It's even a way to involve youth to be part of the solution that you guys are taking. Is very, very important. That's the most crucial things that a leader can do for the development of his community. That's why I said that before we start having this interview. I said that leadership is not merely about the positions, but it's about the impact that you make in your community.
Okay, I think it's perfect now. Um, in one of your responses, you did say that some younger people are not so much interested in politics, which is that is what a what a shame, because they are the leaders of tomorrow, so they should be interested in politics. I know that it can be very difficult for them to emerge. That is because of the heritage that we have from colonialism, where the system. Okay, we are not talking about colonialism today, but irrespective of what might have happened, this is what it is today. So the younger people in Africa must realize that this continent, these countries in Africa belong to them. So they must look for a way to emerge. It's a difficult fight. It's a fierce fight, but they must fight their way into the position of authority. Because now, let's look at it, for example. You get somebody who is very old into the position of a country that are full of younger people. Now we're going to talk about aspiration. I don't think he's thinking of anything very far. Because first, he doesn't even understand the instrument of the age. Talking of maybe technology, how to plan, how to renovate things, how to do things in a new way. So I'm beginning to wonder, these people, do they know how to come to Facebook, to YouTube, and really deliver an eloquent message that will captivate the mind of the people? Do they care about the future of the country, like how to strategize the foreign policy of this country? Because if you are a younger person, you are maybe like 30, 35, you are in your mid 40, you become the president of a country, there is no way you will not do what is right. Because if you don't do it, you still have another 40 years to reap the reward of what you have done. It is a difficult fight. To run a country is a difficult thing. Your brain needs to be functioning properly for you to do that. So if you are an old man who is almost like wearing pampers, you can't do that. It is not possible. It is against the rule of nature. You see, so how do we get more young people, more young Africa into the mindset that these countries belong to them, that they must do it with every way necessary to grab power in Africa, because this belongs to them?
I think what I'm going to say that African youth leadership is very critical to the future of the continent. And as young people holding the potential to create a positive change and shape the trajectory of these nations. But however, it is very, very unfortunate, by the way, that many African youth are afraid to enter politics and take up leadership positions, as you can see, and as I said previously. And this fear may stem from a variety of factors, including lack of trust in political institutions, limited opportunity for political engagement, and a sense of disillusionment with the political process. And apart from that, many young people may feel intimidated by the competitors or the complexity of and competitiveness of political environment, or simply lack of the resources and connections necessary to navigate them effectively. But the most important to recognize that overcoming this fear, I know it's not an easy task, okay? But it's very, very necessary for African youth to have a critical role to play in shaping the future of these nations and the continent as a whole. And what I have to highlight on here is that their voices and perspectives, or even thinkings, are very essential to building inclusive and effective governance systems. And this is some of the things that I have said to some of my friends, some of my colleagues, and even my elders to support African youth in stepping up as leaders. It is essential. It's very, very essential to provide them with the trainings. I even write an essay on that, about the trainings, resources, and even mentorship, building a think tank for the African youth, because schools are here, but we don't learn so much things about the life, about things that we are supposed to do, we are supposed to tackle for our community. It's very essential. The think tanks are very essential in building African youth, spirit, ideas, perspectives, to prepare them for the challenges that they are supposed to tackle. And they need to develop those skills and confidence. And this can also include opportunities for civic educations, leadership trainings, as I said previously, and also some mentorship programs that can connect young people with experienced leaders in their communities. As I said, the leaders, the elders, and so on. At the same time as well, it's also crucial to create more inclusive and supportive political environment that can encourage youth participation and provide opportunities for them to contribute their ideas and perspectives. Having those aspects to let youth, in order to hear out their perspective on some of the things or some of the challenges that their society is facing, is very important. This can involve policies and programs that can prioritize youth inclusion, such as youth quotas in political parties, or even targeted funding for youth-led initiatives. That's the most important thing that we are also supposed to consider. And also an aspect is that to create a more inclusive and supportive political environment for African youth, it's essential in order to unlock their potentials as leaders, ensuring that the continent is shaped, or the continent's future is shaped by their ideas and perspectives. As I said, we have to think about the future, not today. It's very important. And by working together to overcome the barriers that hold young people back, we can build a brighter future for all African youth. And to finish, answering your questions, I'm going to say that leadership is about unlocking the potential of others. If as a leader of today, we do not create a space whereby youth can learn, youth can have a training, you can learn from your aspect or some of your things that you are doing good or you are doing bad, will not be able to create a tangible, I said again, a tangible African leaders who are here to solve the problems, the critical issues of their community. We are going to be creating, at the end of the day, some of the leaders who are just here in order to feed their stomach, not to feed the stomach of their people.
Now, let's look at maybe one thing that is also very important in Africa today, because Africa be the youngest population by demography in the world, and this demography be interested in technology, and looking at the fact that African political setup is very complex, I'm trying to just imagine, is it possible that because the African young people are more in tune with technology, that technology can be useful for them to navigate the web of politics in Africa so that they can use it to their favor in order to grab power in Africa and then use it to the development of their land?
Thank you so much for that. And as I said, that we all have a role to play in order to transform our community or our continent. And these are some of the things that I usually say, that politics is vague, it's a broad field, and the things that I'm going to be, or the aspect that I'm going to be focused on in order to enter politics will not be the same aspect that you are going to consider in order to enter politics. And we all have a significant role to play. And I may enter politics by being into the political parties. And some people can use like technology in order to enter politics. But the main fact here is not about the process. It's about the final outcome. You get what I mean? It's the final outcome. That means that the impact that we have been creating through some of the things that we have been using in order to transform our communities through politics is very important. For instance, as you say, there are so many sectors in Africa that are not developed, and they are meant to be developed. For instance, when you look at the agricultural aspect, and today most African countries, what we are using, we are facing traditional farming methods. And this is something very, very backward. And in order to develop that, we need African youth, for instance, who are smart, who have like a hands-on experience and knowledge that can use technology and transform those sectors. And those will impact the life of millions of people who are not able to increase their productivity, which means that they are also playing their roles into politics, because politics is a strategy that we are going to be using in order to develop our community. And as I said previously, that leadership is not merely about the positions, but the impact that you make in your society. And those impact can be made through different things that have a sense into politics, technology, journalism, politics, politics, and so on. We have a significant and critical role to play in order to move forward. And when you look at Nigeria today, we have so many youth who are so keen on technology, but those technology are not used in order to transform the life of millions of people in Nigeria. It's very critical. We have to create a space for them whereby they can hear out their perspective. They can try to put on the line what they think about things that they can use for the transformations or the drastic transformations of their society. These are some of the things that I would like to say. And in summary, I can say that technologies provides youth a range of tools and opportunities that they can use with politics and even the political sphere. By leveraging these tools effectively, youth can build their profiles, mobilize support, and even establish themselves as credible voices on political issues.
Yeah, that is true. We can see that even playing out in Nigeria today, that the Labour Party is have been able to garner a lot of support in the media and able to really, the question is very simple. If the National Electoral Commission in Nigeria has not obviously rigged the election, the Labour Party will just win very clearly. It's evident.
I know, Peter.
Peter Obi.
I know,
And this only happened through technology because he was able to communicate to the people, and technology was very, very useful in able to pass this information to the people, because this didn't really pass through the traditional media, passed through social media, to the point that the opposition were saying that these are social media things. They will not stand the ground because you need to go to the street. Of course, from the social media, you garner the support, and the support then translated a live event, because you are speaking to the younger people. Where do you find the younger people in Nigeria? They are on social media. And where are you supposed to speak to them? Speak to them in the platform where they are. So if we tap very well into the power of technology, the type of technology that we have today, I believe that African youth, irrespective of the country that they are able to wrestle the power and hold it. Because this is the tools of the age. If you want to play the game of the age, you must use the correct tool to be able to do what you have to do. Anyway, that takes me to another question I'm having in mind. In the beginning, you did say something important, which is true, that in Africa, we lack human resources. And the consequence of that is that you have a lot of people that are suffering in the midst of abundance. Now, because we are concentrating on the younger people, what is your suggestion? How do you think we might be able to develop the human resources of the younger people? Because I repeat again, they are the leaders of tomorrow. If we don't develop them, we are going to have even more problems in the years to come. Help me with that.
Very important, because we commonly say that the development of youth or of a nation depends on youth. But which youth are we talking about? Are we talking about youth who are sitting behind, who are not thinking about development of their continent, who are not thinking about the challenges that they are supposed to tackle and being a change makers? And I said that youth are the springboard, are the cornerstone for the development of Africa. And to highlight more of my insights, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, said that young people must be included from birth. A society that cut itself off from its youth service is lifeline and is condemned to bleed to death. And some of the things that you have to understand is that young people should be at the forefront, as I said before, of global change and innovations. Empowered, they can be the key agent for development and peace. These are the things that you are supposed to consider. But we are like the current government in our different countries or on African continent are supposed to create a space whereby African youth can learn from them, can have trainings can get prepared, which comes up with the think tank. The think tank is a very tool for African youth to get prepared for the challenges that they're supposed to face. And these are the initiatives that most countries in Europe, in America are using. So many think tanks, but in Africa, we have few think tanks. I have been working in the think tanks. It's based in Rwanda, it's based in Japan, it's based in Senegal, it's based in several countries. But what we are facing over there is that African youth doesn't even know what they're supposed to do in terms of the African challenges. Some of the things that you are supposed to learn there, you cannot learn that at school. It's very important because you have to be politically mature enough in order to critically see some of the challenges that your continent is facing. And these are the things that you cannot barely learn at school. That's why I said that we have to create a space whereby African youth can learn about some of the challenges that they are facing and having a space whereby the former president or the former politicians can come together and try to exteriorize their ideas, their perspectives, their things that they have gone through, and if it's the bad side, good side, so that African youth can learn from that and see how best they can use those kind of aspect or perspective or concept in order to internalize into the continent transformations. Is very, very important. It's a key aspect that we are supposed to consider.
Thank you so much for that, Mohamed. That is really very important. I appreciate it. It's a key important point. All right, now, what would be your final thought here, considering the conversation that we have had today about leadership and the role of the younger people, particularly? How would you conclude it?
I would like to say that thank you so much, Mr. Obehi, and for bearing with me and considering that I also have something to share with my little experiences as an African youth, because it is very obvious that we do not want to put at forefront our youth in order to talk about some of the things that we are facing. This is a good step. As I said previously, that why you want African youth to change this continent if you do not want us to take the lead. It's very important because you can't be at two sides. What we say in French that tu ne peux pas être au moulin, au four, au même temps. Again, you have to be at one place in order to advise them. Is very important. And those kind of things that if this is very well spread, it will contribute highly to the transformations of the African youth mindset. And I think those are the things that we are supposed to consider. And to finish, I would like to say that we have to take conscious of our consciousness in order to change our country, in order to change our continent, because the consciousness revolutions is very important. That's where fall into the human resources. If we do not have like a strong mindset, we cannot change our continent, even though we have so many things, but we are going to allow some people to come in order to transform it and even damage what we have. We have to be the driver of our own life. We have to be the driver of our destiny, whatever will be, but we have the option to move forward. That's why Martin Luther King said that the ultimate measure of man is not where he stands in moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands out in moment of challenges and controversies. These are the things that we are supposed to handle, we are supposed to consider, we are supposed to look at in order to prosper, in order to change our community. And thank you so much for this podcast. I think this will transform the life of millions and millions of African youth, their perspectives on leadership into politics in order to transform highly their continent. in order to transform highly and drastically their different countries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's highly valuable, the conversation that we have had today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.